I have been watching a few videos of people discussing the current scandal. Uh, it's playing out before our eyes. How the whole world is seeing our ruling class for how they truly are, who they truly are, what they truly do, and there's different angles that they take. There's different things that they're looking at, but when I scroll down to read the comments in these videos, I inevitably come across someone who says something like, "And nothing's going to change, and nothing's going to change, and nobody's getting arrested, and nobody's going to do anything about it." And I'm a little. It's not that I dispute the truth of what's being said, because right now I sense that I sense that is essentially true, that nothing's going to happen. There's going to be no arrests, and nobody will do anything. But I just there's something about deciding to be the one to say something like that in a comment section. It's like, what is your point? What is your aim? What is your goal in doing that? Okay, like if you're saying, especially for the ones who are saying nobody's doing anything about it, nobody's going to do anything about it, we're all just going to let it happen and go on as normal. And it makes me wonder, well, are you, commenter, are you doing something about it? What are you doing? What do you suggest that we should do? What do you want us to do? There's something a little disingenuous about it, in the sense that this person is obviously saying something needs to be done, but is saying it in an inverted way. Instead of saying we've got to do something, which is sort of Fed posting, right? Pretty much. This is like inverted Fed posting. And none of you suckers, none of you fools, none of you, you're out there all mad and upset, but you're not going to do anything about it. And it's just going to go on like this, and nothing's going to happen to anybody. Nothing's going to happen to any of these people. So I would like for that person, the person who decides to provide that kind of input, which again, I think it's like, again, I would call it inverted Fed posting. Fed posting is, somebody's got to do something about this, agent provocateur kind of lingo. Somebody better do something about this. There's we've got to strike a blow. We got to send a message. The world needs a wake-up call. We're going to phone it in. That's a line from They Live. I don't know why I remember that. One of many cheesy lines from that great movie. So you're mourning that nobody's going to do anything about it, But what are you suggesting ought to be done? And what are you doing, right? If you're assailing everybody, around you for their inaction, for not storming the Bastille, as it were, speaking strictly metaphorically, if you're not doing that, then why are you? What is your aim in talking about nobody's going to do anything? It's either inverted Fed posting, or it's just black pilling. It's like I'm gonna I'm just gonna rub it in. I'm taking delight in the fact that big, powerful people are doing awful things and getting away with it. Nothing's happening to them, and the population, the people who are upset about it, they're not going to do anything about it either. They're just going to complain. They're just going to sit there and wring their hands and talk about how terrible it is, but they're not going to do anything about it. What should they do? What's your recommendation? Oh, you don't have a recommendation. You just want to be, you just want to slather us with your despair vibes. You just want to slather us in despair, right? It seems that way. Thinking about this realistically, let's shift to a fictional setting, because and I'm not talking about the real world. I'm talking about it in the realm of fiction. You have a population ruled by tyrannical and absolutely depraved and degenerate people, really monsters. They're barely people at all, although they think of themselves as the only people, and they think of anybody who's not them as cattle, as animals, as subhuman, essentially. Okay, so in this tale, that's the case. You have these people, the ruling class, completely hypocritical, to saying that they represent righteousness in the world, saying that they want to knock over all the regimes in the world that aren't on their side, that don't represent all the good, virtuous things that they claim to represent. They're disgusting people who do horrific things to the innocent. All right. So in that book that you're reading about a society like that, of course you would have certain expectations, right? You would think, well, the people are gonna, there needs to be a rebel alliance, there needs to be I'll just stick with the rebel alliance. I'll stick with what I know. There needs to be something like that that's challenging them. That's not going to put up with this anymore. Right. Okay, but let's switch back to the real world. Okay. I would say for a long time I've thought it probably would be a good thing if things were changed, if a change were affected. by the right people, by the best people, by the people uh, best fit to rule, by the just. Um, Obviously, voting, as several people have said, quote, we're not voting our way out of this. Yeah, agreed. If voting made any difference, they wouldn't let us do it. And elections are probably all orchestrated anyway. So, again, we're left with that rude question, what are we going to do? What are you going to do? Nobody's going to do anything about it. And ha ha ha, you're all just a bunch of complainers. And nobody's going to do anything. I would like to say, first of all, it's not necessarily incumbent upon you to do anything. In the sense of, it's incumbent upon us all to do something, but it's not incumbent upon us to do things that could be perceived as dangerous or treacherous, and so forth. There are other ways of signifying, at least signifying to the world, as I've talked about before. There are ways of. I think we have a responsibility to live our lives in a way that shows that we are not. We do not approve. Things are going on. Obviously, there are limits to what any one person can do to stop the bad things that are happening. But, and so, we're definitely not all called to put ourselves on the line in any kind of a way that would be construed as inappropriate. But we are inappropriate in the sense of, in a certain sense, in the sense of what Fed posting would have us all do. But I think we're all called to do something, or some series of things, to signify our refusal to comply. This can take many different forms. I don't know, don't pay your taxes, maybe? I heard this was on a Jim Brewer, who's a famous comedian. So if he said it, then nobody like me can say it, I guess. I wouldn't hold it against anybody. I wouldn't hold that against anybody. But there are other things too. There are other ways of just, there are gestures that one must make. And for me, again, what I said, I think around the time of the last election was what I had decided was that voting is the way, getting you to vote is the way that they get you to basically say, I'm good with this. I'm good with what you're doing. I'm it has my approval. I buy into the system. That's basically the gesture that you're making when you vote. It's, I buy into the system. You may not conceive of it that way. Of course, I'm guessing that you don't conceive of it that way. But this for me, I think, is legitimate, a legitimate way of in one's own small way, not having anything to do with it. with that which is with the evil that they are doing. Now, also, I think it's good to defend the innocent. So do whatever you have to do to defend the innocent. That doesn't mean go out of your way to. It doesn't mean be aggressive. It doesn't mean go looking for trouble. But it does mean, for the people you know in your life, if you have children, if you know. If you know, if you have your own children, or if you're an aunt or an uncle, and you have children in your life in that way. If you have children in your life and you're not seeking to do depraved things to them, then I mean, I don't know. Like I think things like where was the girls on Epstein Island? Where were their fathers? Why are there? And I know in many cases you have parents selling their kids into sexual slavery. I know that happens. I know it happens. It's one of the darker things. But for a lot of them, I think it's just neglect, or I read Virginia Roberts Giuffre. I read a bit of her story, and she was abused. She alleged being abused in her own home, and that sort of set the stage for how she became, how it was easier for her for the elites to find her and to abuse her. And then she wrote about it and talked about it, and now she mysteriously died. How about that? So I'm just getting my patience is wearing thin with the people out there who, you've got better things to do than say, and nobody's going to do anything about it. What does that serve? What purpose? How does that further any positive action? If it's just you sneering about people being lame, But I mean, you must know that for most people who are of limited means, people who are just scratching to get by, as a lot of people are, you must know that for people like that, saying you're not going to do anything about it. I mean, what do you want? What do you want somebody who's barely getting by to do? Who's got a family to take care of? What do you want? What are you suggesting? Are you suggesting something? Well, I would say, I'm not going to put it in the form of a question. I'll put it in the form of a statement. You, by doing that, you are essentially calling them moral cowards for not going out of their way to stop incredibly powerful monsters from doing incredibly depraved things. I don't think that's fair. I think that's not fair. And it's just not, it just doesn't further the cause. We all want this to stop. I shouldn't say we all. All decent people want this to stop. All people who are aware of what it is, that it exists. And with this drop, it's harder to deny that it's out there, that it exists, that it's, it's what we got. It's the deal that we've got. to deal. It's what's before us right now. So what do we do about it? If you have constructive, non-Fed post things to say, in YouTube videos or elsewhere in comment sections, then say what you will. Otherwise, shut the hell up.